We spend our entire lives on the surface of this planet, right? But how often do we actually stop and think about its architecture? Welcome to our guided expedition, where we're going to explore the grand designs of our world and see how they literally shape our lives.
I think this ancient wisdom from the Atharva Veda is the perfect place to start. It encourages us to see the Earth not just as a bunch of rock and dirt, but as a living, breathing thing that takes care of us.
So, that brings up a really big question, doesn't it? If the Earth is this massive, incredible structure, what are its building blocks? What are its pillars and its foundations? Well, that's exactly what we're here to figure out by looking at the major landforms of our planet.
Okay, first things first, we have to get our heads around a crucial idea. The ground you're standing on, it's not static, not at all. It's more like a dynamic canvas, always being painted and repainted by massive forces over mind-boggling amounts of time. The world we see today is just one frame in an incredibly long movie.
And that's what a landform is. It's one of those fundamental building blocks sculpted over eons. Today, our expedition is going to focus on three of the big ones: mountains, plateaus, and plains.
All right, let's get started. Our expedition begins with the most dramatic, most awe-inspiring landforms you can imagine. We're heading for the high ground, climbing the great uplifts of our world, the mountains.
So what makes a mountain a mountain? You know when you see it, right? It's that classic shape, a really wide base, super steep slopes, and a narrow peak or summit that just towers over everything else around it.
And wow, this image just captures that majesty perfectly. Mountains aren't just random piles of rock. They are born from unbelievable power. I mean, just try to imagine tectonic plates smashing into each other, folding the Earth's crust up like a piece of paper, or a volcano building itself layer by fiery layer from deep inside the planet. It's incredible.
Now here's something that's really cool. Mountains actually have a life cycle. The geologically young ones, like the Himalayas, are super tall with these sharp, jagged peaks. And get this, many are still growing. But then you have the ancient ones, like the Aravalli Range in India. They're shorter with smooth, rounded tops because they've been worn down by millions of years of wind and rain.
And just to give you an idea of the scale we're talking about with those young mountains, the highest peak in the Himalayas reaches this absolutely staggering height. That's almost 9 kilometers straight up into the sky.
We are, of course, talking about Mount Everest, but it's so much more than just the world's highest point. For the local people, it's a sacred place. In Tibet, it's called Chomolungma, the mother goddess of the world. These mountains are also the literal source of life for millions, because their melting snows feed the great rivers of Asia, like the Ganga, the Indus, and the Yamuna.
Okay, from those sharp, dramatic peaks, our expedition is now moving on. We're going to traverse the great tablelands of the world, the plateaus.
So what's the deal with plateaus? Well, the key thing is their really unique combination of features. A plateau is an area of high ground, sure, but unlike a mountain, it's got a huge, relatively flat top. Seriously, just picture a giant table rising up out of the landscape. That's why they're often called tablelands.
And this view, this just captures the whole idea perfectly. You can really see it, can't you? The steep sides give way to this vast high-altitude plain that just seems to stretch on forever. And just like mountains, they can be incredibly ancient, like India's Deccan Plateau, or much, much younger.
But plateaus are hiding a secret. Because of their unique geology, they happen to be unbelievably rich in natural resources. In fact, they've earned the nickname storehouses of minerals.
And this is a huge deal globally. You've got the Chota Nagpur Plateau in India, which is an absolute powerhouse of iron, coal, and manganese. The African Plateau is world famous for its gold and diamond mines. And get this, where rivers flow off the edge of these high tablelands, they create some of the most breathtaking waterfalls on the planet.
But the ultimate example, the king of all plateaus, has to be the Tibetan Plateau. At an average height of 4,500 meters, it is absolutely deserving of its name, the roof of the world. It's so enormous it actually influences Asia's climate. It's the source for most of the continent's biggest rivers, and it's home to some really unique cultures that have adapted to life in that extreme environment.
Okay, for the last leg of our journey, our expedition is coming down from the highlands. We're descending into the fertile foundations of human civilization, the Great Plains.
When you think about plains, one word should pop into your head: fertility. See, these are huge, low-lying areas, but their whole story is about rivers.
For thousands and thousands of years, rivers carry all this nutrient-rich stuff, silt, sand, tiny bits of rock, down from the mountains. They then deposit it all over the lowlands, creating this incredibly rich soil that's perfect for farming.
Now, this map of the Ganges Plain in India shows you exactly what that means for people. Just look at how tightly clustered everyone is. That's not random. People are living right along the river system, because that's the source of life, it's the source of their livelihood.
And that pattern translates into this absolutely mind-blowing number. The Ganges Plain supports over 400 million people. That's more than a quarter of India's entire population. It's one of the most densely populated places on the planet, which is a huge testament to its fertility. But that also brings enormous modern challenges, like pollution and running out of groundwater.
So, as our expedition winds down, it really makes you think about this long, long partnership between humans and landforms. But that partnership is changing. We're no longer just adapting to the landscape, we are now the ones actively reshaping it.
And this contrast right here, it says everything. On one side, you have a natural landscape. On the other, a landscape that we have fundamentally changed. Things like massive mines, cutting down forests for farms, paving over fertile soil for cities. All of it is making humanity one of the main geological forces on this planet.
You see, in the end, these landforms, they aren't just a pretty backdrop to our story. They are an active partner. Our cultures, our economies, our myths, even how we survive, it's all written on these landscapes. So to understand them is to really understand a huge part of ourselves.
Which leaves us with one last, really big question to think about. For millions of years, it was natural forces that wrote the story of our planet's surface. But now, we're the ones holding the pen. So what is our chapter in Earth's very long story going to look like?